Good morning, Year 4. Welcome to today's English lesson. Now, yesterday we challenged you to write the first draft of your own recipe for your marvellous medicine. Today we're going to edit and improve it before writing our final version. Let's think first of all, what features should we find in our recipe? What features should we find in every recipe? Pause the video, have a think, see how many you can name. These are the ones I came up with. Our recipe should have a title or the name of the dish, the name of what we're making. It should have a list of equipment and ingredients. It should have imperative verbs, those bossy verbs that tell us what to do. It should have adverbials to tell us how, where, or when to do it. And it should have chronological instructions. Remember, that's instructions that are in the right time order. And what should we always look for in our writing, in any piece of writing? Again, pause the video and have a think. I came up with these ideas. So first of all, we should be checking to make sure that our piece of writing makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, it's no use to anybody, including ourselves. We should also look for capital letters in the right places. We should also check that we've organised our piece of writing in a really sensible and logical way. We should be looking for full stops. We should be checking our spelling to make sure that we've spelt those tricky words right. And we could look for other punctuation as well, such as commas, exclamation marks, question marks, apostrophes, and hyphens. I've put these lists together as kind of a success criteria for today, all the things that we need to check. You can also find this on Google Classroom as well. Now, you go and get your recipe and have it in front of you and a different coloured pen to the one you used yesterday. You and I are going to edit our pieces of writing together. Pause the video if you need to go and get your work. This is my recipe. It's Miss Woodward's Wonderfully Whiffy Medicine. So I started this with you yesterday and I've since carried it on. Let's go through the list together and look for one thing at a time. If we go back, the first thing we need to check for in our recipe is that we've got a title. We've shown what the name of our dish is. Have a look at yours and make sure you've put a title in. Mine's up here, underlined so it's nice and clear. The second thing on the recipe list is making sure we have a list of equipment and ingredients. Well, I've got mine down this side here, but looking at it, it doesn't really look very clear to me which bits are equipment and which bits are ingredients. I haven't really separated the two, and there's no title or anything to tell me what that box is about. So I'm going to change it slightly, and I'm going to add a heading at the top here for equipment. And underline it. And then I'm going to add a separate title there for ingredients and underline that. Make sure that yours is really clear. The next thing on the list is making sure we have chronological instructions. So instructions that go in time order. So I've got putting the saucepan on the stove to begin with, and then we start putting in things. I've got instruction 1, 2, 3 for some more ingredients, 4. Oh, wait a minute. I've missed out the number 4. Double check. If you've numbered your instructions, make sure you haven't missed out any numbers. You would think, being a maths teacher, I'd be able to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, there we go. And don't worry if editing your work today means that you need to cross bits out or write bits above. Don't worry about that, because we're going to write up our final version, our beautiful version, worthy of going into a recipe book later on. Right, the next thing we're looking for are imperative verbs. check that you've used plenty of imperative verbs to tell people what to do. So I've used place, pour, drop. Yeah, if I look through, I've used a variety of them. You don't want to always use the same imperative verbs. Make sure you mix it up a little bit. Add, simmer. Yeah, we're good. Okay, the next thing to look for is adverbials. Remember, that's when, how, or where to do things. Have a look through your writing while I have a look through mine. On the stove, slowly, that's a how. Carefully, that's a how. Until it bubbles, that's a when. Before adding the mixture, that's another when. Stir well, that's how. Okay, I've got good adverbials. You got yours? Brilliant. So that means now we can move over to the other list. So the list of things that we look for in every piece of writing that we do. First of all, we need to make sure our writing makes sense. Now, I know this seems like a really obvious one, and I know you're thinking, well, I wrote it, of course it makes sense. But you'd be surprised how often we miss things. The best thing to do with this one is to read your work out loud, because quite often then you'll hear if something's not right. Pause the video to read your work out loud, and then I'll read mine out loud and we'll see if there are any places that it doesn't quite make sense. My recipe reads like this. 1. Place the saucepan on the stove. Slowly pour in 500 millilitres of boiling water. Number 2. Drop in 4 pairs of smelly worn socks and stir thoroughly. Number 3. Carefully squeeze in a tube of toothpaste and a bottle of shampoo. Keep stirring until it bubbles. Number 4. Mix 100 grams of toenail clippings and 500 grams of coffee beans with 150 grams of mud in a separate bowl before adding to the mixture. Stir well. Number 5. Add 3 tablespoons of flea powder and stir until it has dissolved. Number 6. Let it simmer for 40... I found an issue. Let it simmer for 40, stirring it occasionally. 40 what? I've missed a word. Now, if you've missed a word in your writing, don't worry, you don't have to cross everything out. Remember, you can just put in a little arrow and you can write the word that you want above. So I wanted it to simmer for 40 minutes. Now, the good thing about using a different colour when you're editing and improving your work is that it makes sure that the changes are clear so that when you're writing it out neatly, you can see any changes that you've made. Right, check that last one for me. Let it simmer for 40 minutes, stirring it occasionally. That works. Okay, what's the next thing on the list? Next, we're checking for full stops. So there should be a full stop between each sentence. Let's look through. Place the saucepan on the stove. Full stop. Yeah. Slowly pour in 500 millilitres of boiling water. Full stop. Drop in 4 pairs of smelly worn socks and stir thoroughly. Carefully squeeze in a tube of toothpaste and a bottle of shampoo. Keep stirring until it bubbles. I'm thinking that should probably be 2 sentences. Because I've done 2 ideas. I've talked about squeezing in the toothpaste and the bottle of shampoo, and then I've told them to keep stirring, and I haven't used a conjunction in the middle. If I'd written carefully squeeze in a tube of toothpaste and a bottle of shampoo and keep stirring until it bubbles, that would be fine. But I haven't used one, so I need to put a full stop in there. Between my 2 ideas. Carefully squeeze in a tube of toothpaste and a bottle of shampoo, full stop. Keep stirring until it bubbles. Right, I'll keep on checking mine. You pause the video and check your work for full stops. Make sure it has all the full stops you need. The next bit is organisation. We need to have a look and see if our text makes sense in the way that it's set out. Have a look at your recipe and check that everything is organised. So you've got your title, your lists of ingredients and equipment, you've got your instructions and your picture, and they're not all jumbled together in a very strange way. Well done. We've just got 3 things left. We need to check for capital letters next. Now remember, you only need capital letters if they come at the beginning of a sentence after a full stop, if they are a person's name, if it is the name of a place or a particular business or company, or if it's the title of something like a book. So let's have a look at my writing first. My title has got a capital letter for each part, partly because Miss Woodward is my name, and secondly because it's the title of my medicine, it's the name of my medicine. So each word has a capital letter. That's okay. If we look through here, we've got a capital letter at the beginning of our instruction and after each full stop. So we should be able to just have a look through, check there aren't any sneaky ones that have been put in anywhere by accident. Let's have a look. Now I put in that extra full stop, didn't I? But I didn't put in the capital letter. So if I've got a full stop there, I then need a capital K here. Because after every full stop is a capital letter. Right, let's keep going. So that's a capital, that's fine. Check through. Full stop, capital letter, yeah, full stop. I've missed one at the beginning of an instruction as well. Make sure that every instruction you write starts with a capital letter. Got a full stop there, capital letter for the beginning. That's a comma, not a full stop, and a full stop at the end. Okay, I've got all my capital letters in the right places. The penultimate thing, or the second to last thing that we need to check, is our spelling. Now there are several ways to do this. You can have a look through your writing and see if there are any words that don't quite look right. And you can check them either using a dictionary, or if you don't have a dictionary, you could Google the word, or if you're really stuck, you could ask somebody else at home. So look through your writing and see if you can find any words you're not quite sure of. Remember, usually we underline them and we write the correct spelling above if we need to. I found 3 spelling mistakes in my work. The first one is the word pears, and although I've spelt pears correctly, I've written the wrong kind of pears. So this sort of pear is the fruit. What I want is a pear like a pair of socks. Like that. The second mistake I found is the word bottle. I've not quite put enough T's in there. So I'm going to write the correct spelling above. And the third word I found is separate. 150 grams of mud in a separate bowl. So I had to look that one up, but I now know how to spell it. So I'll put it there so that when I write up my work neatly, I'll know how to spell it. Have a look through yours and see if you can find any spelling mistakes like I did. Well done, you're doing a really good job. We're on the last thing now. The last thing we're checking for is our other punctuation. The good thing about checking for punctuation in a recipe is that it's fairly simple. We don't really need exclamation marks. Nobody's exclaiming anything and nobody's shouting. We don't really ask questions in a recipe either. Apostrophes are usually used when we're contracting words, making them shorter, like turning do not into don't, or cannot into can't, or should not into shouldn't. Those things don't really come up in a recipe. What might come up is a comma. The easiest way to explain a comma is where you might take a little pause in your sentence. Or if you've got two describing words, like two adjectives, then you need a comma in between them. Have a look through your work, see if you can find where you need to put some commas. Now, I've found one place in my writing where I need a comma, and that's with my pairs of smelly, worn socks. So smelly and worn are both adjectives, so I need a comma in there. If you're being a very clever year 4, you could also have a look at your instructions and see if you've started any with an adverbial. If you have, you need to put a comma between that and the rest of the sentence. So I've used a fronted adverbial, so at the front of my sentence here, carefully squeeze in a tube of toothpaste. Right, that's it, we're all done. We've checked for everything you need to check for. Now, all you need to do is write up your recipe beautifully on paper. Remember your neatest handwriting, and you can add a picture and some decoration as well. If you need any more time for editing and improving, remember the lists are on Google Classroom for you. I look forward to seeing all these amazing recipes when we go back to school. Maybe we'll have to put them all in a book. Work hard, year 4. Bye.